Hello there, and welcome to another episode of Cutting Through the Bullshit. I am your host, Dr. Stephanie Snyder, and I am a high performance mentor. Through my unique blend of strategy, mindset, and intuition, I help men and women to cut through the BS in order to create the life and business they desire. So, there has been, and I shared this the other day. I was going to talk about something else, but this is just coming to mind, and so we're going to have a conversation in real time here. So, there's been a lot of kind of a shit show the last couple of months. And as I talk this, you're getting this in real time. So I am reminded of one of my mentors when he shared this very early on when I started working with him. And he mentioned that when stuff starts to feel like a shit show, right? Like, it's part of this leveling up process where it's like all the crap comes up, and then wherever you are, you have to come up and meet that, and then go a little bit farther, and then they kind of even each other out throughout life, really, because you can't have the good without the bad. It's just, it is what it is, right? It's that, what is it? The yin and yang, right? The good and the bad. You wouldn't know what was good if you didn't experience the bad. You wouldn't know real joy and happiness if you didn't experience the sadness as well. And so they just kind of start to level themselves out. And it's been a crazy emotional roller coaster for probably the last 2 months. And now that I'm saying this all out loud, I'm getting these little nudges that it's like a level up period. And I'm ready for it. I'm so ready for a level up, right? And I guess that's where we're going, right? So how do you know if it's just a tough time or if it's like a level up time? And I don't know the answer for that for everybody. How do you know if you're just kind of going through shit or if it's like there's a purpose behind the stuff? And the truth is, the purpose is whatever you decide it's going to be. And for me, the craziness that's just been happening, I mean, I could probably sit here for 5 minutes and whine to you about all of this stuff that seems to have been thrown at me in the last couple of months, all very emotionally exhausting, overwhelming, I guess. And I keep reminding myself to just be grounded, right? So, prime example, I've shared this before, and this happened this morning, but my husband and I chose to go ahead and move forward and put a pool in our yard. And it has felt like no part of that journey has been easy. And maybe you're thinking, yeah, well, Steph, that's because of your belief around the situation. I don't know that it is. However, I know that when I left the permit office defeated yet again today by not being able to pull the permits for the pool, it didn't sting as much as it did the first time. And I also shared this on a previous episode that I tend to be a glass half full kind of a person, right? And what I realized is that glass half full often comes through my verbal processing. I am a verbal processor, and so these episodes are actually quite beneficial for me, very therapeutic to actually have these conversations with you, because I do believe that you watching this YouTube or listening to this podcast, that we are actually engaged. And I can imagine your responses as we move through this. So this is a conversation that I would have in real time with a person, right next to me, as opposed to on the other side of the screen or through the podcast. And so as I verbally process, there's going to be things that come up and come through, and it's going to be incredible. It's going to be great. It will land whoever it needs to land with. And I'm realizing that my energy is a little bit all over the place now. I do need to ground myself and take a deep breath here, because there are so many different rabbit holes, so many different threads that I want to go on this. But we're going to land it, and we're going to talk about our emotional intelligence. And this is something I have shared about before And I forget what book it was in. I remember hearing this from a mentor first, but I read it in a book recently as well. And it's when intelligence is high, emotions are low. And when emotions are high, intelligence is low. And sometimes it can be difficult to navigate these things. And very perfect example. I am a soccer mom, a golf mom as well. My son plays golf. You can't do a whole lot of yelling on a golf course, turns out, right? But at a soccer game, I am quite vocal. I'm a vocal parent, right? And I can get emotional, especially when I see that my kid is having the crap beat out of her, right? And I'm usually pretty good about keeping myself in check and not personally attacking the officials. I certainly don't yell at specific children, right? Because they are children. Now, I do try to be very, very, very encouraging as much as I can. And so I know the names of my kids' teammates, and I will yell for them. I will try to encourage them. I do realize that most children are not, some children may not be encouraged by the yelling, right? But as I've said to my kids, if I am watching your game, you will hear me yell. And 95% of the time, it's not anything bad, right? 5% of the time, I'm yelling at an official for a terrible call, right? But I've even learned to begin to rein that in. I'm always progressing. But my whole point here is that even despite kind of the nonsense that's come through emotionally the last few weeks, it's really interesting how I've been able to keep myself in a positive mind frame, because I know that there's been times previously where I could have let something like this spiral me. Absolutely spiral me, take me out. Prime example, when 2020, when COVID hit, I was really, really subjective to the negative energy that was all around, and I let it take me out. And I spiraled down, and I ended up imploding, essentially, my business. And there doesn't seem to be any of that lingering negativity left, right? Like it's almost like I've burned through it, because of all of the nonsense that's been happening over the last couple of months. My husband and I bought a business, and there's been transitions with his position. There's been transitions in my coaching business. There's been all these different transitions that have happened, and I feel like I'm doing a great job navigating it, not taking it super seriously and just managing it like one day at a time. And I'm grateful for that. There's a very firm foundation that I have that it's all going to be okay. And so, what was it the other day? I think it was Friday. Amidst the chaos of my son's graduation was that night, and I found myself overwhelmed. And I checked in with myself, and I said, you know what? How would you respond if everything was going to work out for you? And I immediately dropped the frustration, and I was like, okay, it's fine, right? It's not a big deal that this extra thing got added to my day today. It's fine, right? Even going this morning to the permit office, I found myself like sprinting to the office, and I caught myself and I said, Steph, you've got time. It doesn't matter if you get to the permit office a minute faster. It's not going to matter in the grand scheme of things. So relax, right? You've got this. It's okay. And while the results from the permit office today didn't turn out the way that I wanted it to, I sent a message to our pool builder, and he said, you know what, it's not a big deal. He said, if it takes another week, it takes another week, not the end of the world. Now, according to my timeline, it does feel like the end of the world. But that's when I'm worried about the little things and not focused on the big picture. And I think that's the biggest thing, is like, when you can look at things from like a 60,000 view up, right? These little things that we get all worked up about and all worried about and all annoyed about, they really don't matter at the end of the day, right? Which reminds me of a conversation that I had in the last couple of weeks. It's interesting how this is all coming together in real time. So you're just kind of stuck with it, right? So when it comes to these things, you know, and I remember hearing this on, was it a podcast? Might have been a podcast. Years and years ago, this mom was talking about, she was being interviewed for something. And she said, well, the way I look at it is, in 10 minutes from now, is this going to matter? Is in 10 months from now, 10 years from now, right? How do I want to respond to this situation from that kind of a perspective? But most of the time we don't actually give ourselves the opportunity to respond from that place because we knee-jerk react. And I absolutely say react. We don't give ourselves that time to process, and we immediately knee-jerk react. And that doesn't help us, doesn't serve us. But when you can make decisions and choices based off of where you want to be 10 years from now, 5 years from now, whatever, 5 months from now, right? Then you slow down and you become way more intentional, because you give yourself the ability to say, okay, how do I want to respond here? Instead of how do I react, right? Because reactions are something that you don't actually take into account. You just do the thing that's automatic. And so if you always get angry at a soccer game and you don't give yourself the chance to slow down and actually enjoy the soccer game, you're going to just get mad at the soccer game, right? That's where this high emotions, low intelligence, right? You simply react. You don't get to respond. And so when you slow down a little bit, you actually give yourself the chance to respond, and to respond in a way in which you actually want to be seen. And so I was reflecting on it because there was a little drama that got built up around the soccer team. And I was reflecting on it and I said, you know what? There was nothing that I said or did this weekend that I was like, oh shoot, I shouldn't have done that, right? Like, yeah, was I verbal towards the referee? Yes. Was it in a general term? Yes. Because I learned that from a previous referee that I spoke to. I said, hey, like, I tend to be the person who's going to yell at referees anyways. It just is who I am. It's what I do right now. Maybe someday I won't, but it is what I do right now. And I said, so how can I be a better spectator? And he said, well, don't make it personal. Cool. I can do that. I don't make it personal. I make it very general, as that was a foul. Come on, right? Like, it's very general. It's not the specific things like I've heard other parents yell. Now, am I perfect? No, absolutely not. I know that. Am I a work in progress? Yes. For sure. And for always, right? But I say all of this. We're going to land the ship here. I say all of this because sometimes you have to step aside from the emotion and have an intelligent conversation with a person. And not everybody is willing to do that. But I tell you what, when you can pull aside the emotion and have a conversation, slow down long enough to decide how you want to handle a conversation, I promise that it will be received way more than you spouting anything in the heat of the moment. And so maybe you do have to give yourself some space for a couple of days or a couple of weeks before you engage with somebody because you're just so emotional about the situation. And that's okay, right? Like, you can excuse yourself from a conversation and say, you know what, I can't go there with you today. I can't have this conversation right now. And no, it's not avoidance, because I hope you get back to the conversation, right? Now, some people may use it as avoidance. I don't. I try not to engage in one of those tougher conversations unless I'm feeling level-headed. If my emotions are still high, I cannot have that conversation because I'm going to say crap that I probably shouldn't, right? So, a couple of things. I'm going to give you a couple of key points here as we sign off. So, when it comes to these things, the very first thing that helps me is I notice that my emotions are getting high. When I notice myself starting to tighten up and my emotions getting high, I will remove myself from the situation. Even if it's just a couple of steps, I'll remove myself from the conversation, whatever. If I can't remove myself from the conversation, I will tune in with myself and I'll take some deep breaths. Remind myself that I'm okay. And then come back into it, right? So it's easy for me now, but it wasn't in the beginning because I felt bad leaving conversations, right? But I had to learn how to manage my emotion side of things so that I could have conversations in a responsive way, not in a reactive way. And I really do believe that that practice has served me. One, I get aware of how my body starts to tighten. And when I tell myself that it will be okay, I can then get off of the defense, right? Because this is the thing that happens when we get emotional, we tend to be on the defense immediately. And when I notice that, I stop listening. When you're on the defense, you quit listening to people. Just it's what we do. I don't know why. It's what we do, right? And so I will take myself back, but I notice this in my body. I notice how my body changes so that I can pay attention to that emotion and then I can choose differently. Now, does it always work? No. But I am getting better at it. And so I challenge you as you progress through your day. Again, the previous episode, I talked about this a lot in terms of awareness. You can get aware of how your emotions are, how you feel, right? What's going on in your body. You can feel those shifts. And when you notice it, you'll start to see a pattern. And just creating that awareness around it allows you to actually break the pattern. So I think that's it. I think I've gone on. I hope this lands for you. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you do have any questions for me, any comments, anything you want me to expand on, you can find me on social media. You can find me on my website, StephanieSnyderPh.D.com. And if you have any questions, anything at all, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I would love to have a conversation with you. And as always, be you, because the world needs more of you. Bye.